So as we mentioned in the last video, under the system requirements for Coreal Painter 12, that a tablet is really a vital necessity. And there is no tablet more suited to working with Coreal Painter than the Wacom tablet. Now, if we go to wacom.com, then we go to products, and then you can see that we have a couple of options right here at the beginning, the Cintiq and the Intuos. And you can see we have many other types of tablets here that you could choose from. But I'm going to primarily focus on the Cintiq and the Intuos. So we'll go to the Cintiq first. And the thing to know about the Cintiq is that you're basically drawing on a screen. Now, this is a smaller screen. This is not really very large at all. It's about the size that you would want to use to put in your lap, and it's kind of a sketchbook, basically. I've worked with this one before. It's nice to work on, but it is somewhat cramped. So you'd want to have a second monitor that you could move everything that you didn't need to actually be drawing and painting with off of this monitor. This sets you back about $1,000, but as I said, it's very nice. However, for most professionals, they're going to be wanting to use the full-size 21UX Cintiq. This is the ability to draw right on the screen, and this is not something that you would really want to be carrying around with you because it's fairly large. However, it's actually a very nice work surface to work on, and it has the full range of functionality that you can expect from the very top-end products as far as Wacom is concerned. Now, the next step down from that is the Intuos, and the Intuos is what I'll be using. Now, these are the Intuos 4. I'm using the Intuos 3, but there's really not that big of a difference between the Intuos 3 and the Intuos 4, other than some cosmetic changes. They added all this stuff over here. There's a different surface on here, and they changed the pens around a little bit, but generally speaking, it's not that big of a difference. So what you see me doing, you'll be able to do with an Intuos tablet just fine. As a general rule of thumb, I recommend using the smallest size. There's no real reason to get the larger sizes unless you just have a habit of really swinging arms around when you're drawing and painting. Generally speaking, efficiency is key, and of course, most of the time, you don't want to have a huge tablet between you and your monitor anyway. So that would be my recommendation as far as tablets go. Now, the thing to know about this tablet, as far as the Intuos, is that there are some accessories. Now, these accessories will work for both the Cintiq and the Intuos, but it's important to know what they are. If you have the Intuos or the Cintiq, it will come with the Intuos 4 grip pen. And this is a perfectly nice tool. It has an eraser on one end, and if you flip it over when you're working in Painter, you can erase, and it has a little switch on the side that will allow you to program it for things like right-click and any other things that you might want to program a little flip switch for. And then this, of course, gives you full pressure sensitivity. If you need an extra one of these, by the way, you can buy one for $70. You can get a little cheaper through other venues if you want to. But the one I really wanted to show you here was the Intuos 4 Art Pen. Now, if you're using the Cintiq, then this will work on the Cintiq as well. This doesn't look an awful lot different than the Intuos 4 regular pen. The difference here is that it's going to sense what's known as barrel rotation, meaning the rotation as you spin your fingers around the device. Now, this isn't something that you would necessarily even think too much about. However, it becomes very, very important with certain brushes when you're working in Painter. And I highly, highly recommend that you consider getting an Intuos 4 Art Pen. Now, they also make the Art Pen for Intuos 3. If you have an Intuos 3, then that would be called the 6D Art Pen. You can find all these on different websites like Amazon.com, for instance, and usually they're much cheaper on Amazon. Now, in addition to that, there are some other optional things that you can purchase here. But as far as Painter is concerned, the only other one that's really all that important is this Intuos 4 airbrush pen. And I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time talking about the airbrush pen because it's really not all that spiffy or all that special, except for when you're doing airbrush work. And I'm not a big airbrush guy, so I figure I'll leave that to people who are more airbrush centric. However, if you are an airbrush person and you want to make the switch to digital, this will give you the feeling of working with a real airbrush more or less. Now, this is kind of similar to a single action airbrush. It's not really a double action airbrush, but it's kind of similar to a single action airbrush, and it can be a complete replacement for your other nib in every other way, but just give you that feel of working with an airbrush in your hand. And again, it's about $100. You can find it a little cheaper on Amazon and those types of places, but the Intuos Art Pen is the one that I consider to be vital, and it's the one that I think a lot of people don't really understand how to use properly. But I'm going to be giving you a lot of free brushes that I made along with this training course, and some of those brushes are going to require that you are using the Intuos 4 Art Pen to take full advantage of what Painter can offer you with those brushes.